Imagine a creature so small it could fit in your hand, yet it throws a punch faster than a speeding bullet. But how can something underwater move so quickly that it literally boils the water around it? And why would nature ever give such a tiny animal such terrifying power? Meet the Mantis Shrimp, the ocean's pint-sized prize fighter, whose punch doesn't just break bones, it bends the laws of physics. Welcome to WildFact Lab, where we decode the wildest animal abilities with the clearest science and the wildest analogies. And today, we're diving straight into the legend, the Mantis Shrimp's bullet speed punch. But what really happens when that club-like claw fires off? Why do scientists say it's hotter than the surface of the sun? And most importantly, what can this underwater brawler teach us about engineering, survival, and maybe even ourselves? Stick around, because once you see what this little creature can do, you'll never look at the ocean the same way again. But first, what even is a mantis shrimp? Is it really a shrimp? Not at all. It's a stomatopod, a creature that's been perfecting its brawler's body plan for over 400 million years. But how big is this so-called ocean boxer? Not much. Most are just 4 to 15 inches long. So how can something barely the size of your forearm hit with the force of 1,500 newtons, the same as a heavyweight's knockout punch? And where does this little fighter live? Not in the open ocean like you'd expect, but hidden in tropical and subtropical reefs, lying in wait inside burrows. Why hide? Because down in the reefs, survival is all about ambush. Strike first, strike hard. But wait, are all mantis shrimp built the same way? Not quite. Some are spearers, armed with harpoons to impale soft-bodied prey. Others, the real legends, are smashers, with clubs of pure destruction. And these are the ones we're talking about today. So, how exactly does this smasher load and unleash a strike so fast it outpaces a bullet? Let's break it down. So, what makes this shrimp's punch so explosive? Is it just muscle power? Not even close. Imagine trying to throw a punch as fast as a bullet. You'd rip your arm apart before you even landed it. So how does the mantis shrimp avoid destroying itself? By using one of nature's most brilliant engineering tricks, a spring-loaded claw. Think of it like this. Have you ever pulled back a crossbow, feeling the tension build, and then let it snap? Now combine that with the crushing force of a hammer. That's exactly what the mantis shrimp has in each club. But how does it actually work? Its muscles contract slowly, loading up a saddle-shaped spring. Then a latch holds all that energy in place like a drawn bowstring. And when the latch releases, boom, the club fires out at 23 meters per second, faster than a .22 caliber bullet. But how much acceleration does that mean? Try to imagine 10,400 grams of force. Astronauts in rockets experience just 3 Gs. 3. So how on earth can this tiny animal withstand that kind of power without shattering itself? Well, that's where things get even crazier, because the punch isn't just physical. It creates something far stranger. But what happens when you swing so fast that the water itself can't keep up? Could a punch actually rip the liquid apart? That's exactly what the mantis shrimp does. Its strike is so quick, it drops the pressure in the water and creates vapor bubbles, a phenomenon called cavitation. But here's the insane part. When those bubbles collapse, they don't just pop, they explode. And how hot does that explosion get? Around 4,700 degrees Celsius, hotter than the surface of the sun. Yes, You heard that, right? This shrimp cooks the ocean for a split second every time it swings. But wait, does it stop there? Not even close. The collapse of those bubbles also creates a shockwave strong enough to stun or kill prey, and in some cases, a tiny flash of light. Scientists call this sonoluminescence. So think about it. This little boxer isn't just landing a punch, it's triggering a microscopic supernova. First, the club smashes down. Then, milliseconds later, the bubble collapse adds a second explosive impact. 2 hits for the price of 1. But what does all of this actually mean for its prey? The crabs, snails, and shellfish, unlucky enough to cross its path. So what happens when all that science meets flesh, shell, and bone? Could any prey even survive? Not really. A crab's armored shell, shattered like porcelain. A snail's spiral fortress, cracked wide open in milliseconds. Even thick-shelled mollusks that most predators avoid become easy pickings. But does the mantis shrimp only punch to eat? Nope. It fights for real estate too, blasting rivals out of their burrows like tiny underwater demolition crews. And what about when this boxer meets human technology? You've probably heard the stories. Mantis shrimp cracking aquarium glass with a single blow. That's not an exaggeration. Hobbyists have learned the hard way. You don't keep an underwater prize fighter in a regular tank unless you want it redecorated with shards. So just imagine, if your punch could break through walls, crush bones, and boil water all at once, wouldn't you be the undisputed legend of your neighborhood too? But here's the question. Why would evolution give such a ridiculously overpowered weapon to a small reef dweller? And how could this punching system even evolve without tearing the shrimp apart? So why would evolution hand such a dangerous weapon to such a small creature? Because reef life is brutal. Every corner hides a rival, and every meal is locked inside armor. So how do you survive when everyone around you is clawed, shelled, or spined? You either break them or get broken. But here's the clever part. How does the mantis shrimp deliver all this destruction without burning itself out? It doesn't rely on muscle alone. Instead, it uses a spring-latch system that lets it store energy slowly and release it explosively. Think about it. Why waste massive calories firing every time when you can load, lock, and release with precision? And does it just swing blindly? Not at all. These smashers can modulate their strike, dialing it down to scare off rivals, or cranking it up to crack shells. That level of control isn't just power, it's mastery. So, when did this super weapon evolve? Over millions of years, slowly refining speed, force, and precision, until the mantis shrimp became one of the ocean's deadliest engineers. But here's the real twist. What can we, humans, possibly learn from a creature that hits harder than a bullet and shrugs off 10,400 grams of force? So what happens when scientists look at a creature that punches harder than physics should allow? They take notes. Because if a mantis shrimp can throw this kind of strike without shattering itself, how strong must its body armor be? The answer lies in its club, a natural masterpiece built from microscopic layers stacked like plywood. But why plywood? Because those layers absorb and spread impact, preventing cracks from spreading, no matter how brutal the hit. Now, here's the kicker. What if we copied that? Engineers are already studying the mantis shrimp's design to create ultra-tough materials. Imagine car bumpers that don't just dent, but flex and recover. Imagine sports helmets that shrug off repeated impacts like they're nothing. Imagine body armor stronger than Kevlar, yet lighter and more flexible. And it doesn't stop there. Robotics, aerospace, Even construction materials could borrow tricks from this tiny ocean brawler. Isn't it wild that one of the smallest boxers in nature might hold the blueprint for the strongest armor on Earth? But punching power and armor aren't its only superpowers. What if I told you the mantis shrimp also sees the world in ways we can barely even imagine? So if the punch wasn't enough, what else could this ocean brawler possibly have up its sleeve? How about eyes that make ours look like cave paintings? We humans have 3 color receptors: red, green, blue. That's enough to see rainbows, sunsets, and Netflix. But the mantis shrimp, 16 color receptors, including ultraviolet and polarized light. But what does that even mean? It means they see layers of reality we don't even know are there, like hidden signals on fish scales or reflections off surfaces we think are invisible. And why would a boxer need supervision? Simple: accuracy. When your punch lands in 2.7 milliseconds, you can't afford to miss. Their eyes track prey with surgical precision, guiding every strike like a sniper scope underwater. So let's recap. We've got bullet speed punches, shockwaves hotter than the sun, armor tougher than human engineering, and vision that borders on alien. But with all these gifts, you have to wonder, what's the hidden cost? Is there a price to carrying such an extreme superpower? But here's the question no one asks. What does it cost to live like this? Can you really wield so much power without paying a price? For the mantis shrimp, the answer is complicated. That spring-loaded claw is a masterpiece, yes, but it's also a fragile liability. Damage it once, and the shrimp can be left defenseless until it molts and regrows the weapon. And in the ruthless world of the reef, even a few days without your fists is enough to turn hunter into prey. And think about the energy bill. That kind of explosive strike isn't free. Every loaded spring, every lightning-fast punch, every shattered shell, it all costs calories. In a place where food is hard-earned, being an apex puncher means you're always burning fuel to stay armed. And what about evolution's trap? Specialization. The mantis shrimp is unmatched in its niche. But step outside that arena, and the very trait that made it a champion becomes a chain. After all, what good is a sun-hot punch if the ocean itself begins to change faster than you can adapt? So yes, the mantis shrimp is one of evolution's finest boxers. But like every fighter, it lives on the edge of its own limits. Which leads us to a bigger question. If this little creature can outmatch our weapons and outlast our engineering, where does that leave us? So what do we take away from this tiny titan of the reef? That power isn't just about brute strength. It's about design, efficiency, and precision. The mantis shrimp's punch is faster than a bullet, hotter than the sun, and tougher than anything we've engineered. But doesn't that also reveal just how far behind human technology really is? We build tanks, armor, and robotics. Yet a hand-sized crustacean figured out better solutions millions of years ago. It's humbling, isn't it? A creature most people will never see face to face carries secrets that could reshape our future. And isn't that the true wonder? That the wild doesn't just entertain us, it teaches us. So here's the challenge. What blew your mind more? The bullet speed punch or the sun-hot bubbles? Drop your favorite fact in the comments. I'm curious what shocked you most. And if you want more wild abilities decoded, hit subscribe and join us here at WildFact Lab. Because out there in nature, there's always another superpower waiting to be uncovered.